Hi, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca. I'm a certified personal trainer, holistic health coach, and future chiropractor on my way to figuring out this thing we called life. Now, let's get babbling. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca, and this is going to be part 2 of my Tri-6 recap. My last podcast was a little bit longer than what I was hoping it was going to be, so I'll try and make this one a little bit shorter just so that it averages out the time. But honestly, I called it Becca Babbles for a reason, so you were forewarned with the title. This podcast is basically going to be more of the personal side of Tri-6 for me. I'm going to go into a little bit more of reflections, lessons that I learned about myself, things I would have done differently, and how I would have handled school. And then I'm also just going to answer a few of your guys' questions that you put in. So hopefully this is all going to help you just get into a better mindset when it comes to Tri-6, or just help you understand what the process is like being a chiropractic student. But anyways, off to the reflections. I feel like my biggest takeaway with this whole trimester was just get better at understanding movement and just keep asking questions. There's so much more that you need to learn when it comes to movement. Having a personal training background, I don't want to say that I felt like I knew everything, because there's always something more to learn, but it just made me realize that there is just so much more that I need to learn. There is this abyss, or this side of movement that I haven't even tapped into, that I will forever be learning about, and that's okay. But it's just so cool to see how the human body moves and how different interventions are going to manipulate someone's body, whether that be an adjustment manipulation or whether that be some sort of exercise or some sort of passive rehab. And seeing how other people's bodies move and are affected by those different interventions is just wild. And getting more curious about those things. I think what was really cool about this try is I was actually able to create that space about getting more curious. Not only with movement, honestly. I know I said that I wasn't going to talk a ton about my nutrition masters, but it was a thing that happened during Tri-6, so I'm going to talk about it. But I learned more about nutrition this trimester, and I thought it was kind of going to be the generic. To be completely honest, I didn't have the highest of hopes when it came to the nutrition masters, just because of what I had heard. But what was really cool is that I guess Parker is now changing how they do their nutrition masters, which is really cool. And I'm seeing that, and I've actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I know a lot of people say that the masters can be a lot of busy work and stuff like that, which I feel like your intent going into the master's program, or your outlook on it, probably dictates how you will see how you work through that master's program. And at least for the nutrition masters, for myself, I enjoyed doing the discussion boards. I remember in the pre-DC program, I hated doing the discussion posts because it just felt like busy work. It felt like, why am I doing a discussion post when it has to do with physics? It's just math. And with the nutrition masters, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And I actually saved some of that content because I'm hoping to put it onto my blog so that you guys can just learn from the information that I learned from, or hopefully someone in the future can pop onto my website and be like, oh, this is cool, and they find it helpful. Because the conversations that we were actually able to have was actually really cool. I want to stop saying cool because I feel like there needs to be another word than that, but that's the only thing that my brain can think of right now. But that's just another way of me realizing that I felt like try 2 through try 5 was this grind of just like, okay, let's just get through it. To where there was actually some sort of curiosity in multiple of my classes this trimester, which was really encouraging. I know like every trimester it's like gross anatomy. Oh, that's cool. That's fun. Like we get to go into this cadaver lab and see like all these different bodies and how the body's affected, and it's like, oh, there's that like one cool class, and then then all the other ones you're kind of just like, yeah, to where like it felt like a lot of these classes tied together so much more. And it also just takes me back to that like conscious competence learning model. If you haven't heard of this before, basically there's 4 stages to learning. There's the unconscious incompetent, which basically just means that like you don't know that you're bad. You're just flawlessly just thinking, "Oh, I think I'd be good at that thing," or "That doesn't seem that hard." Kind of like that blonde moment, I guess, is like the picture that I'm thinking of. And then you've got the conscious incompetent, where you now realize that you suck at this thing and you're aware of this, so you're going to try and get better, is typically what you should be doing. And then there's the conscious competent, where like now you understand how to perform this skill, or now you understand a little bit more about this topic. And now it just requires some like conscious effort and practice and attention to this specific skill or topic. And then there's the unconscious competence, where basically the skill is second nature. You could do it in your sleep and you could just like do whatever movement that you need to do all the time without any sort of brain power or effort or thinking about it. And I feel like for me, understanding movement and nutrition, I've realized I'm still in this like conscious incompetent. And even as a person who did nutrition coaching for a little bit, there is a difference between knowing nutrition and knowing movement and being able to apply that to a different person. Like my hormonal issues with PCOS and my past history is gonna need a different treatment process than someone else who had a different nutritional history. And I'm going to need to see those patterns consistently until I can finally feel like I'm in this unconscious competence. And I think that's where some people are like, I'm not book people. I need more application based stuff. Or they're the people who are like, this is what the evidence says, and I don't care what your patient that like one off happened. And I always think about, why does it have to be either or? Why can't it just be both? And for me, I'm realizing more that I need that application based, where it comes to understanding movement, understanding nutrition, and how to apply that to that other person. I feel like I'm pretty decent and like understanding just the general like biomechanics of movement and how nutrition can affect someone's lifestyle. But if someone came to me with, let's say, some sort of, well, since I was talking about PCOS, let's say like they came in with PCOS, and even though I've done all this research about PCOS, I still need to have these reps underneath my belt to actually see results in someone. And that's only going to come with time and practice to develop that skill. And same thing with like understanding movement. I finally got to the point where I think my eyes have like adjusted a little bit more to like actually analyzing a human body, which sounds really creepy and weird, but I didn't realize this was a skill that I needed to develop, where sometimes you look at a person and you're like, their walking is off. And there's this like big Texas finding where you're like, okay, yeah, that person is probably not walking in the most optimal pattern, or there's some sort of compensation going on right now. But as a chiropractor, I can't just have the general pop eye to movement. Yes, I'm still going to be looking for those big Texas findings because that's probably what's being affected the most when, let's say, for someone's gait when they're walking. But I still need to be able to see their movement and understand it more than just the average person being like, they kind of look like they're limping. Like, I need to know a little bit more than that. And I feel like this try, I can actually see that more. And it's cool to see that muscle being developed of my eyes, just actually being able to see that movement. And this also kind of falls into that category, but I'm actually able to like see the human body in my mind, if that makes sense. So while I'm palpating, I feel like try one when you're palpating. You're just like, I'm just trying to understand the quick scan and the steps of it and all these palpations and where my hands are supposed to go. I don't even know what's like underneath my hands right now. And then I feel like that falls into try two as well, depending on like when you started going to club, how much you're practicing and stuff like that. And then it's felt like the end of try five, and now, for me at least, where I'm like, oh, I can like see the groove of the tip of my finger, that groove and indention where that's supposed to hook on to the side of someone's spinous process. Or maybe I'm like palpating and I can like see the sacrum and the ilium, just like as the sacrum's supposed to go down, the ilium coming back. And for me, it was just this little like, if you see those gifs or gifs, whatever you call them, and the little like dancing mode where they're like do 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 do, like that is literally what's happening in my brain right now. And I'm like, I've developed this superpower. This is so cool. And I firmly believe it's just because practicing the palpation multiple times, practicing the setups of the adjustments multiple times, and finally I know where my hands are supposed to go. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And now I can have that like conscious effort of being present with the person or patient that's in front of me. And honestly, I think that's what gets in my way the most is we're in such a rush to like get the palpation done, to get the adjustment done. And if, or even for me, if someone's watching me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to like hurry and get this done and like figure it out and where is it at, and I have this professor like staring at me and stuff like that. To where it's like if you just take a breath and be like, okay, there is a body in front of me right now. What am I feeling with my hands? And if you have to close your eyes, that's totally fine. I close my eyes a lot of the times because all I want to feel is what's underneath my fingers. And I feel like we hear this all the time. Like I remember in try one hearing this from other reps, from other upper tries, from other docs, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, like be present with the patient and like close your eyes, feel with your fingers. And I'm like, but I still don't understand what I'm feeling. And now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. So don't feel bad if you're like a try three listening to this podcast right now and being like, I'm still trying to understand what I'm supposed to be feeling underneath my fingers. Maybe you just need more practice with the actual palpation and adjustment, but maybe you just need to take a breath and stop freaking out about needing to be perfect with that palpation or with that adjustment, and just get curious about it and start asking yourself more questions on like, what am I feeling underneath my fingers? And I don't care what else is going on in this classroom, in this room in general. Just what are you feeling underneath your fingers, and ask yourself that question, because then you might actually be able to start feeling what's underneath your hands. and you won't be able to get to that step if you don't slow down. So that's going to be even a challenge for myself because I know I need to slow down as well. So, anyways, big takeaway is just get more curious, ask more questions, and get more excited about or honestly, I feel like this try was more like me just getting excited about school again and excited about movement and excited about adjusting and nutrition and being like, I want to ask all the questions and go down all the rabbit holes. And I want to allow myself time to do that. So that was my big takeaway. With this trimester, I actually attended a few different seminars to go down all those different rabbit holes. MPI had their sports summit, which was all about the shoulder. We had Dr. Brett Winchester, we had Dr. Mark King, and we had Dr. Leahy, which he is the creator of ART, which is a type of soft tissue technique. This dude is stupid smart. I went to, so as a rep, we would go to a rep dinner with some of the docs. And Dr. Leahy, I had asked him, I was like, were you just that kid that was reading when he was 5 and reading crazy books and was always reading and whatnot? And he didn't answer my question directly. He just went straight into a story. He was like, when I was 5 years old, my mom took us to the library. And when we went into the library, she said we could only check out one book. And I was thinking, okay, where is this going? And he just pauses and he goes, I decided to check out the book on the introduction to physics because I thought the pendulums were so interesting. And I was like, you were 5? What 5-year-old is like, I would have opened up the introduction to physics and I would have been like, this looks tough. I'm not gonna read this. I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna read, what was I even reading at the time? Probably what happens when you give a mouse a cookie? When you give a mouse a cookie, those kinds of books. And it was funny because when he said that, then Luke, one of our other reps, just goes, I was into trucks. And it was just the perfect moment. But besides that, at the sports summit, it was mostly about the shoulder. So we learned adjustments about the shoulder. We learned DNS positions that would help with shoulder rehab. And I felt so bad for the guy who was having to do all the demonstrations because he was just shaking like crazy in every single possible position. And then Dr. Leahy just, again, stressed the importance of palpation and getting good at palpation and understanding what's underneath your fingers. He was like, I can feel this nerve, I can feel the muscle, I can feel the joint, and I can feel what is wrong. And I know sometimes when we're in school, we're like, okay, yeah. And you need to be able to palpate as many healthy bodies as possible so that when you get that joint or that muscle where you're like, this is wrong, it is so glaring that you're not even questioning it. And that's what I took away from Sports Summit, especially with Dr. Leahy, about just the importance of palpation and being present with that patient that's in front of you. And then also it was really cool to talk to him at the rep dinner. The other seminar that I attended was Webster. So this is the most recognized pregnancy and pediatrics seminar or slash certification. So I wanted to make sure that I got that just because if I was to have a future patient that came to see me that or was maybe looking for a chiropractor that does pregnancy and pediatrics, or sorry, not pregnancy and pediatrics, pregnancy care, that my name would be a possibility to pop up. So it was really cool. There was a ton of birthing videos, which were really interesting. There was even one of an elephant that I was like, is this necessary? And I definitely closed my eyes on a few of them, not gonna lie. But overall, it was a really fun seminar that I got to attend, and just getting better with the different adjustments that they had us do. And then also they had some like soft tissue stuff that we could work on. So it was really cool. And then I thought this would just be fun to throw in, but my adjusting confidence. When I get to the end of the try, I always like fill out this sheet of questions that I ask myself and just reflections and stuff like that. And it was funny because my adjusting confidence stayed the same. It was a 6. And last try it was also a 6, which honestly I'm like kind of disappointed in myself a little bit, but I think it goes back to that like unconsciously incompetence and like consciously competence, where it's like adjusting confidence isn't always going to be uphill. Like it's not always going to be up, because I think what I realized this trimester is like more ways that I can improve on my adjustments. And so I think that's why it stayed the same, where I'm like, I don't think I deserve to go up even another number, because there's still things that I want to tinker around with and get better with. So if you feel like you're not getting better with your adjustments, but you're critically thinking about your adjustments and like how to improve them and how to get better, and you're constantly frustrated because you're like, why am I not getting it? Or like, why doesn't it feel like it's getting better? Or why am I not like amazing at adjusting yet? You might actually be improving just because you're thinking about how to perfect your adjustment more. And you're not just going in and being like, boop, and done. Like, you're actually thinking about how to improve your adjustment because you're being present. It just goes back to like full circle right there. So don't get frustrated with the adjustment. Just keep going, keep trying, and you'll get there when you get there. So another thing on this sheet that I tell myself to like write down is like, what is my why? Because like I just want to like reinforce like why I'm here, why I'm in school. And I encourage you to do that. If you were to do anything out of like any of your reflections when it comes to school, I highly recommend like writing down why you're here and why you're in chiropractic school, and what you want to be doing once you graduate, because it just helps bring into perspective of why you go through the hours of schooling, why you take all these different tests. And for me, it's really cool to see how this has shifted and changed and evolved, because I can look back at try one and remember being like, I just want to like work on athletes and get them super strong and be like super cool and go to the Olympics and stuff like that. And now my why is I just want to help women feel mentally and physically strong through their whole life. So that meaning like their menstrual phase of their life, when they're going through pregnancy, prenatal and postpartum, when they're going through perimenopause, when they're going through postmenopause, when they're just going through menopause in general. I want to be that for them so that they can continue to do the activities that bring them joy, because I feel like injury or hormonal issues, nutritional issues, stuff like that are keeping them from being able to focus on what they want to focus on and do, whether that be some sort of like physical activity, whether that be like some sort of study or being good at their job and stuff like that. And I feel like as a clinician, I can do that. And that's why I'm here. And it just, every time I think about it and I think about all the women that I will be able to impact in the future, it just riles me up. And I'm just like, let's go. So figure out what your why is, because once you truly figure it out, you will it's just this spark that keeps lighting you up. And honestly, my why, like I said, has it changed and evolved. Like try one, if I look back at that one, or even when I wrote it in try one, it's like yeah, that would be cool. To where now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, this is my spark. Now I'm not saying that like I won't work with like guys and stuff like that. I will totally still work with guys. This could apply to men as well. I want them to be like mentally and physically strong throughout their whole life, and like and bring joy into their life as well. It's just for me with my personal past, seeing women get mentally and physically strong is just so impactful, not only for me, but I think society as well. And to do this, I know that I need to learn more about rehab, learn more about nutrition, and just like basic women's health. So that be like pelvic floor work, nutrition, menstrual cycles, menopause, stuff like that. I feel like menopause is something, just because like I haven't gone through it, that I need to learn more about, especially when it comes to that nutrition aspect, because there's just a lot of different stuff coming out now, how nutrition can impact menopause, or just lifestyle changes impacting menopause. So it's all cool stuff, and I'm super excited. I wonder how this is going to change Tri 7, or like when I graduate. But right now, I feel like this is a pretty solid of like what I see myself doing and my why, to like what's going to keep me through going through chiropractic school and stuff like that. So, speaking of chiropractic school, changes are going to be coming. Obviously, we're going into a new trimester, and honestly, there's like this bittersweetness to Tri 7. Not because it's Tri 7, but because there's this realization that I had where I was like, oh, I'm an upper try. It's like when you go to high school and you're a freshman, and then you finally are like a junior and you're like, wait, I'm going to be a senior next year. And there's this like weird thing where it's like these lower classmen are now looking up to me, and it feels weird because it's so fast. Like when Dr. J talks to you in try one and he says it's going to go by so fast. I know right now you're thinking like this couldn't go by faster. But I can remember moments of try one and I'm like, wait, whoa, that felt like that was yesterday. It's insane. And then the thought of like, oh, wait, I'm about to go to clinic, which is like a whole nother beast in itself, where it's like, I'm excited to do it because I want to be able to start helping people and start working on my craft, and then just being able to like purely focus on getting better at adjusting. And then also that rehab aspect to it as well. But then there's also this piece of like, I'm going to be trusted with patients. And you can't get better at something if you don't practice, obviously. But then there's also this part of me where I'm like, and this is my like Enneagram 3 screaming out so hard, where I'm like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want them to know that I'm bad. So something that I'm working through, and we'll see. I can't wait to record a podcast on my first experience of clinic, because I've just heard everyone's different experience of clinic, and I can't wait to share all my stories with you guys. But I I don't know what to expect. It's going to be so different, and I'll just have to wait and see. But the bittersweet part when it comes to this trimester is that like a lot of the people that I met and impacted me in my lower trimesters are like leaving, or they're gone. Like Riley was a big influence on me pre-DC to like now and forever. I remember meeting Riley was one of our MPI presidents, and he just graduated this year. And he's like the big brother that everyone loves. You knew he was in the room. And I remember being in the pre-DC program, and I was coming to R2P club, but then I had finally decided to start going to MPI club. And I think this was like my second or third club. I think it was my third club or third club meeting of MPI in the pre-DC program. And we were in the North building, and I sit down, and cause like I'm early. I didn't know that like people got out of class at like 11:50, and then they like went and got their lunch and everything. And I'm that kind of person that like I'm always on time, and like on time is early and on time is like actually late. So I would get there at like 11:50, and I'm just sitting there and I'm waiting. And here walks in Riley and Dr. Shemak, and Riley just turns over to Shemak, and he goes, "Yeah, this is Becca. She's going to be like one of the best next MPI reps." And I was like, I don't know about that. And it's just so funny how that's like actually came to life to where now I am an MPI rep. I'm not saying I'm the best or anything, but how that's come full circle. And he has definitely been like a big impact when it comes to chiropractic school for me. And I can't wait to see like what he does. But it's also really sad to see him leave. And same thing with Erin. Erin, you guys have seen Erin on the podcast. We joke all the time that I don't know her last name. If you haven't seen the podcast episode that I did with her, I think it was the lower integration. Actually, I did two with her. I did the lower integration seminar, and then I did adjust-a-thon with her. So it's either one of those. You just have to go back and listen to that one. And Erin, she has not graduated yet, but she's going to her internship, and she's going with Brett Winchester. And I can't wait to hear her experience going there. But she's honestly the like sister that isn't blood related to me. And I remember the first time meeting her was actually at an R2P meeting. And I was this nervous little, how old was I at the time? Was I 20 or 19? I can't remember. But I was like, okay, we got to make friends. We got to make friends. You got to say something nice to this person. And here's sitting Erin, and she's wearing this like tank top. And I go, "Hey, I really like your tank top. Is it from Lululemon?" And she just laughs in my face. And I was like, "How dare you?" Like, I'm just trying to make a friend right now. And she just laughs and she goes, "No, it's from Amazon." Later on, I find out that she tells me, she's like, "I knew you didn't know me because everyone knows that I don't buy anything from Lululemon. I just buy everything from Amazon." And our friendship just sparked from there. I then just like started to go to all of her like tutoring sessions, and I was the biggest pain in the butt with her with tutoring sessions. And then it turned into like I became an MPI rep, saw her all the time, and when I had my lowest of lows in chiropractic school, like she was always there for me. And though those two people have like really impacted me with chiropractic school, so it's going to be hard to see them go, but I can't wait to see what they actually do. So a lot of flashbacks throughout the past trimesters, and a lot of questioning of like, oh my goodness, I'm an upper try now. I'm gonna be going to clinic soon. Who am I? Like, what is this? And also the fact that like I'm also going to be the next MPI president, and I really want to do a good job. And I want to encourage other people to come to club. I want those numbers to be high in club, because the more we get more people in club, then the better more better chiros, I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but the more chiros with better palpation and adjusting skills are going to be out there so we can impact more and more people. So we'll see how that goes. I'll have to like update you guys on what it's like being the MPI president in my next podcast with Try 7, but let's just get through this try first, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of like my reflections, thoughts, personal stuff that I had been going through with this trimester and things that I've been thinking about. If you have like any questions related to anything chiropractic related or not, honestly, I'm an open book when it comes to anything. Feel free to send me a DM or email me. I want to help as many people as I can. So with that being said, I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions. A lot of you guys were asking about boards prepping and like what I wish I knew and stuff like that. So I'll just like give you a general rundown of what part 1 boards was like. I will be taking PT boards soon, so I can also give you guys an update on that one in my Try 7 podcast. But this one is specifically going to be about part 1 boards, just because that's the only one I've taken. So yeah. I know a lot of people were asking me if I took the board reviews and like if they should take them or like use them and stuff like that. And I feel like the biggest question you should ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? And there's no judgment here. It's just asking yourself, like, do I need structured time with someone so that I will study and not be on my phone and not wanting to go down all the different rabbit holes? Or can I actually put in my calendar, I'm going to study for 1 to 2 hours, this amount of time on these days to get my studying done? If you are the person who can actually follow your calendar, you don't have to take board reviews. There's a ton of Quizlets out there that have like practice board exam questions that you can go through and like test yourself. There you can buy like a board review book and read that for yourself and like make sure that you understand those concepts and make your own flashcards out of that. You don't have to take the board reviews to pass. I know there's a lot of fear around that, or they use fear for that, and I don't think it's necessary. Now I know a lot of people got benefit from the board reviews. So if you're the person who like needs that structured time where you're like, I'm going to get on my phone and like, I honestly feel like I didn't really understand most of the classes that I was taking and I just skidded by most of my classes, then I would say, okay, probably take those board reviews because you're going to need that more structured, direct explaining, reviewing over concepts, but you don't have to. And I know multiple people who didn't take board reviews and they passed just fine. So it's not about the number, it's just about passing. I know a lot of people will like tell each other like what score they got, and it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone's gonna walk that stage. Like, the questions that they ask on there are so crazy and so bizarre. Just because it's such a big pool of questions and categories. If you don't already know, part 1 boards is basically like the first half of it is spinal anatomy, general anatomy, and then phys 1 and 2. And then you take this like break for 15 minutes. You can either take the break or not, you don't have to. And then the second part of it is microbiology, biochem. I think they just say chemistry at that point, but it's biochem, and then pathology is the rest of it. Your biggest bulk is going to be that anatomy, and then it's going to be phys, and then I think it goes biochem, then micro, then path. I think path was only like 10%, but I don't really remember. double check on the board's website of the breakdown of percentages, but like I know that's like the stepping stone of which one goes most in order. So make sure you know your anatomy because that's going to be your biggest bulk. And honestly, I feel like being a gross tutor, being a phys tutor really impacted me when it came to part 1 boards. So like if you can be a tutor for a class, like be a tutor because being able to review phys over and over and over again, I don't think I studied phys besides like one day, one, maybe two. And like I got all those hormone questions and I was like, boop, 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 boop. Like I got them all. Like I was so ready for that section. And I was like, I'm done. I was so happy to see that phys section because I was like, I think I got more than half of these questions right. Like I might have got most of them right, which was really encouraging and reassuring. And then I remember some of the like general anatomy section in spinal anatomy, like doing gross tutoring definitely helped as well. So like if you can be a tutor because then you're not forcing yourself to study, you're teaching other people and it's a little bit more enjoyable to do it that way than like having to study. But I know everyone's just like, how did I study? What did I do? And honestly, if you are able to, if you're however it falls, works where you can do it over the 3-week winter break, I highly recommend just because sometimes it can be hard for some people in Tri 5 to like get that studying in just with the like heavy course load. And if you're able to have that winter break to study, I know some people are like, I just want my break to be my break. And it's like, well, your next break can be your break. Like there's got to be some like give and take here, especially if you don't want to study during the trimester. So I highly recommend that because then it was easy just to focus on that. I would like my plan was to study. Like I had different plans because different things ended up happening and my plan didn't work. But my first plan was I'm going to study one day. I think it was like Saturday that I picked throughout the trimester, unless like I had a seminar or something. And I was going to study for boards throughout the trimester. And then I was going to hammer real hard winter break. That didn't end up happening. My schedule just got like way too busy with Tri 5 and it didn't work. So then it was plan B. Plan B ended up being, okay, I'm going to study every single day on break. And then I'm going to go on vacation to go see my grandma, go hiking, chill for a little bit, like maybe get in some studying here or there, maybe just like an hour. It'll be great. And then come back, study hard, and then start Tri 6, and then study every single day that day. Actually, I don't know if I said that or not, but or maybe it was just the weekends or something like that. And then I'm going to take boards. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. That didn't work either. I ended up getting sick. I remember I started studying for boards like during finals week because I was okay with like all of my finals. And so I started studying for boards during finals week. And then it was Friday of finals week and I just was not feeling good, or I was feeling very run down. And then it just hit me the next day where it was like if I went for more than like a 10-minute walk, like I had to sleep hardcore. Like I got so sick. And I would try and study while I was sick. Like I would have to sit and like study, but I could only handle like 30 minutes and then I would have to like watch Christmas movies the entire time because I could literally do nothing else. I am the worst person when it comes to being sick because I hate being sick and I hate sitting still for that long of time, but I was just like there's no way. I can't move. So that didn't work either. I tried my best to study throughout that. So plan C just ended up being hope for the best. And honestly, I feel like being a phys tutor and gross tutor really helped me out in this area. But I remember doing some of those. I think it's the CBR app. I did some of those But honestly, doing those Quizlets that are out there with some of those practice questions, going back and reading the board review book, and just, I think I got that off of someone on like Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and just testing myself. And I had one of the tutors at Parker, and I was like, hey, I know I am not good at micro. Can you help me tutor in micro? Especially since I didn't have the board review, and I was like, I need someone to teach me that. She was like, yeah, sure. So like, I even know as a tutor myself, I can't speak for all the other tutors, but I would totally be okay if someone was about to take part 1 boards and was like, I'm struggling in this phys section or this gross anatomy section. Would you tutor me 4 boards for this? Like, yes, I will do that. It's still the same topic, and I really enjoy tutoring phys. So give me, especially phys 2. If you have any phys 2 questions, because like, give me the hormones. I love the hormones. But yeah, it's I feel like if you put the effort in throughout the school year, you're gonna be fine. So if your plan for studying doesn't work out, that doesn't mean you're not going to pass. As long as you put in some effort, you're gonna be okay. Um, I will say, try, if you're not gonna do the break thing of trying to study every single day. Like when I say study every single day, I'm saying 2 hours every day. And then I took like maybe Saturday, I did 1 hour. And then, well, it depend on if it was during my sick or not sick. But Saturday I took an hour, and then Sunday I took off because I just could not handle doing it every single day. So do that if that works for you, if you're not going to do the boards. If you're doing it through the school or like through the school year, like you want to study while you're in Tri 5, or I know some Tri 4s take it when they're like going into Tri 5, right? Yeah. Or I might be mixing up the trimesters with that. It might be Tri 5s taking it. Yeah, typically Tri 5s. So if you're going to do that, then I'd say like carve out 2 hours on a weekend to study, or like minimum like an hour to study, get focused. And you could do like a 30-minute chunk each, like 1 30-minute, I'm going to study one subject, the next 30-minute, I'm going to study the other subject. And start with the one that you struggle with the most and go from there. I would say the way that I structured it was I really hardcore studied micro, but like it wasn't weighted super heavy. So like I would do a micro day, but then I'd also do an anatomy day because I knew anatomy was the most highly percentage of the test. So make sure you get in your anatomy, especially if you're like, I don't really like anatomy. I'm sorry. Like that's the one you're going to like need to hammer hardcore. But I remember the day of getting my results, I just recorded a podcast with Dr. Felton. If you haven't listened to that podcast where we talk all things like fascia and faith, that one's really cool. So make sure you go check out that podcast because I was hyped after that podcast. I'm typically hyped after most podcast interviews, but this one I was like extra hyped about. So recorded that podcast with Dr. Felton, and then my friend Maggie sends me a message and she's like, the results are in. And I was like, should I check this now or should I not? Because if I check this now and I didn't pass, my hype from the podcast is going to go away. And I don't want that to happen. But then if I get the results, then like I'm going to be extra hyped. So what should I do? And so I was like, it's going to bother me. So I'm going to need to check it now. So I went to check it and I passed, and I was just like, there was so much hype in my body. I was just like the little running man, just like in my room, just being like, do, 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 do. Like, I was so hyped, and I'm in my little apartment and I'm just pacing back and forth because I was like, I have so much energy. I don't know what to do with myself. And it's really cold outside and I don't want to go outside, but like, what am I supposed to do right now? And so I was just so hyped in that moment. So, like, once you have that relief, because you wait for like a month, it's like this overhang of like, you take the test, you feel like you want to throw up after the test, and then you're like, well, there's nothing I can do now because I just gotta wait for a month. And then you get the results and you're like, oh my goodness, this like overhang of like this bubble or this cloud of just like, did you pass? Did you not? Is finally gone. So it's so relieving once you get that, but you're gonna do great. Take a breath, just study, focus. You got this. All right, the next question I had was, how do you stay motivated when it feels like a never-ending grind? Whew, this one hit me hardcore. So, like, as you can tell, I'm a highly motivated person, or disciplined person, I guess you would say. And there's this point where, like, you study for midterms, and you study for midterms, the tests, the practicals, and you're like, okay, I just gotta study hardcore, do good on like all these tests that are coming at me one after the other, and boom, 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 boom. And then like I'll take that next week is gonna be chill, and like I'm gonna feel dead, but then I'll be like revitalized and I'll be back, and then I can like hit it hardcore for like finals, final practicals, and then finals. Well, hopefully you don't have to hit it hard for finals because you can just like chill. But sometimes with your A-type personality, you're like, I'm right on the edge on a B or an A. Should I go for it or not? So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But anyways, I just remember this trimester it being like, oh, that like kick into gear for those like final practicals was not there. I was like waiting for it. I was like, okay, where is that extra boost of energy coming? And it just felt like this monotonous Groundhog's Day of just like, my energy is just beep. Like I was just flatlining. It was like not okay. And I I know there's moments of like hitting burnout. Sometimes I don't even like saying burnout because it's not just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like not wanting to accept that I hit burnout because I'm like, I'm stronger than that. But maybe it was. So, if you've ever heard of like fight, flight, or freeze, the amount of times that I hit that freeze point was too many to count. I would remember driving home and just being like, hmm. And if you can't see me on the podcast, I'm just staring off into the distance. Or I'd get home either to my apartment or I'd go to like my parents and I'd just be like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like I literally felt like one of those adult characters from like Charlie Brown where I'm like, yeah, uh-huh. I remember after my, what was it, my FAP practical, all of my friends wanted to go to like the caf and like get their drinks and stuff like that or their breakfast. And I was on such like a anxious high before that test. Like I wasn't trying to. I think I explained this in the last podcast, but I try not to be one of the last people to take the practical because my like anxiety catches up to me. So I try and get in there before my anxiety catches up. And like that one, I wasn't able to do that. So when I got to the calf, my body, I could not speak. Like it just would not let me. I was like, I'm going to be way overstimulated, or like I just cannot provide the energy for my body to talk right now. Like I could hear other people speaking, but I could not physically speak, and I could just like not comprehend people speaking. But I was also like, I want to be by my friends right now, but I'm just not going to like be in this conversation. So I totally understand this like feeling of never ending grind and trying to stay motivated and trying to stay into the books, trying to do your flashcards, trying to do good on your tests, and honestly, having a routine and sticking to it is honestly the biggest thing that I could say that helps you stay motivated, because it's not about motivation, it's actually about the discipline of doing what you set out to do. So whether that be you work out, then you study, or whether that be you come home from school, you have dinner, you go for a walk, and then you study, having something where you're like, I'm going to do this. And then right after that, that means I'm going to study. Because I think the biggest thing that gets into people's way is that they say, like, oh, yeah, like I need to study. But they never know when they're actually going to study, or they never plan out when they're going to study. It happens. Well, when you just have it where it's like, oh, well, I have school all day, so it's just gonna happen. Like, it never actually happens, because then someone's like, hey, you want to come to the gym with me? Hey, you want to go for a walk? Hey, like, let me tell you about my weekend and this crazy thing that happened. And then, like, 2 hours go by, and you're like, well, I'm not studying, or I don't have time to study. Or then you end up studying at like 1 a.m. and then you're like, I'm so tired. And then that's going to then feed into that like never ending grind. So setting up times where you're like, I know I can study. So like for me, like I said, I would go work out and then I'd study and then I'd have labs that I'd go to. Or I'd have dinner, I'd go for a walk because I was like, I haven't moved all day, or I need some movement and to get out of this apartment, and I need something to get my mind straight and focused, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to study. Even if that means it's just like 15 or 30 minutes, something is better than nothing. Also, making sure that like you have your study days on like good study days. So, like, for me, I think I told you guys this in the last podcast, but like Tuesdays were an awful day to study because literally I had lecture from 8 to 5 and my brain just felt dead, and like nothing productive was going to happen on that day if I was going to study. Like, if I had to do something that day, it was like those extra assignments or quizzes or fluffy stuff that I knew didn't need a ton of brain power. And I just do that on Tuesdays while I'm chilling and watching a show or listening to a podcast or just listening to some music and getting that work done. Or maybe I wasn't doing anything at all because my brain was dead and nothing efficient was going to happen. So make sure that you schedule it at a good time and have something that like ignites that, like whether that even be like turning on a lamp. I know I just had a podcast interview with Leanne and she was telling me, she's like, someone just like turns on a lamp, and when they turn on the lamp they're like, okay, this is when I'm studying, and it just cues your body and creates this routine of like, this is when I study, this is when I do this certain thing. So I also think, because some people go back and forth on like, should I study on the weekends or should I not? But then like, I also want to do something that feels good for me. And I feel like this was something that I struggle with a lot. I'm really good at being like, I'm going to sit down, work at my computer, but then that like never ending feeling grind and that motivation, and like not having that motivation or even the discipline to stick to what you did. And you're just like, I just can't stare at a computer anymore. It might be because you're like, your entire life is so focused on school, and like you have this such high of importance of school where it's like, how about we go out and get some sunlight? How about we just go on a hike? So like for me, what I started doing is like, whether that be I invite people, and even if they don't come, I'm going to go for a hike, but like I would say like, hey, you want to go for a hike? And I'd go for a hike in the morning, spend some time with my friends, and then be like, I'm studying afterwards, this is how this is going to go. And I had the motivation to actually study because I got to do something enjoyable, and that like lit me up and filled up my cup. So then I could go and put in effort into my studies. So if you're that kind of person that like tends to like bear their head down, but you're just like, I'm not the same person that I used to be, that's okay, because you've been doing this for like 5 to 6 trimesters now, over and over and over again. But then also it might be the time to be like, okay, I just need to like sit down, or not even sit down. I need to like do something that will fill up my cup on the weekend and then go and study. but like don't make that be like, oh, I'm gonna go party and then I'm gonna study, because like that's just not gonna help, because then you're gonna get bad sleep and all this stuff. But anyways, I'm a grandma, so like don't come to me if you're like, I want to go party, because like, sorry, not my wheelhouse. Not my forte. But the last thing I would say is like get ahead on your work. So like if VSC was one of my classes and like my nutrition masters, a lot of the stuff would come out on Sunday for those classes, and there was like easy light stuff, or at least for VSC it was. So I'd do that on Sunday. So then I had like less to do during the week, and it felt like it was this nice like check off my list of like there's not this like overbearing list that I have to deal with. So those are all my like ways of like staying motivated in this like never ending feeling cycle, because like I get you. I feel you. But then also I've been having this like thought a lot recently where just because you have a feeling doesn't mean you have to accept that feeling. You can just notice and be like, okay, I don't feel very motivated right now, but like I know I need to do this. So whether that be I need to get myself a cup of tea and like sit down and like do my work, or maybe I need to go for a walk for a quick sec so then I can sit down and do my work and do that. Not every feeling you have to grab onto and say like, I'm going to do what my feelings say, because like your feelings are fleeting. Not all the time, but most of the time. Sometimes. I'll just go with that. All right, last question. What helped you build confidence in adjustments or assessments? So I kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, but honestly, like fake it till you make it. Put yourself out there and like do the adjustment that scares you. If that is the seated CT, if that is side posture and you're just like, I'm terrified to set up on someone like that. Do it. Whatever adjustment you're thinking of right now that you're like, oh, there is no way I would do that one because I'm so afraid of messing that one up, or I'm like awful at it, do it. Because you're gonna want to do it now where it's okay to fail and mess up, and all your friend is going to say is going to be like, man, that really sucked, or they're going to say nothing, because that typically is what ends up happening. Is you're an FSA, you're like, how was that adjustment, and they're like, it was good. And you're like, okay, I know it was bad. But so like do that then, instead of waiting for clinic and then you adjust someone and then they don't come back and then you don't get your clinic credits for the next time for your returning, because you never practiced that adjustment. Or worse is where you graduate school and you never do that adjustment anymore, and now you have to ask people for money to get that adjustment, or to just be adjusted by you. And then I don't know about you, but in my conscious, if I knew someone needed an adjustment, but like I didn't know how to do it, or let's say like I never practiced it, so I wasn't like good at it or anything, but I knew deep down like this person needs this adjustment and I couldn't give that to them, I'd feel awful about it, because I'm like, I need to help this person, but I can't give them what they need. So obviously, I know like referring people is a thing and like you need to do that, and there's parts of that, but like as a chiropractor, you should be able to like adjust the whole body. So that's my thoughts on that. But it's okay to be struggling with adjusting right now. And if anyone in your classes right now says that they're good at adjusting or amazing at adjusting, they're faking it too. They're trying, they're figuring it out. And like, no one's amazing at adjusting right now. And it's okay if you suck too. And I remember having this conversation with Aaron where I think there's like try 3, try 4. And like, there was a ton of people who were like really good at adjusting, or at least I thought were really good at adjusting in my try. And I was just like, when am I going to get good? And I was so frustrated because I was like, I'm this MPI rep. I should be good at adjusting. And like, I feel like I'm this imposter. And like, I want to be good at adjusting, and I just don't understand why it's not there yet. And she was like, you will get good at adjusting when you need to get good at adjusting. And I remember hating that conversation and like hating hearing that, being like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to be good now. And reflecting back now, she was totally right. Like, and I hope she's listening to this because I know she would be laughing this entire time. But the person that you think is the best right now is probably thinking that they're not good either. The best adjuster didn't get to be the best overnight. And there's always going to be someone out there that's better at adjusting than you are. But that doesn't mean that you should stop yourself from trying. And this is where like that whole like growth mindset comes into play, where it's like, you're not good at it yet. But that also means that you shouldn't try. And it's okay that you continue to fail. This is why like club is a thing. This is why FSA is a thing. You have encouraging people around you, so use that to your advantage. And that's how you build confidence. Is like first you get confidence in like how to set up the adjustment, how to set up the palpation. Then you get confidence in like, okay, I think I know what I'm feeling. And then you start getting confidence in like developing the speed within that adjustment so then you can actually do the adjustment well. And that's not going to happen if you don't start off with the like, where do my hands go portion. I know some people look like they can just like get it with ease, and like, that's great. They're probably struggling somewhere else, but it's okay that you have to go step by step by step and get better at different stages to then get to where you are. And that's also why clinic is a thing, where all you have to focus on is adjusting and getting better at that. You're always, if you're trying and you're being present with the patient in front of you, you're always going to be getting better if you are intent with what you're doing. So I know that didn't directly answer that question, but the only way to build confidence is actually to fail forward. Same thing with assessments, is to do the assessment over and over and over again, train your eyes, see what you're like, see what's happening, see it from different angles. And if you don't practice it, you're not going to build the eye muscle. I don't even know if that would be the right thing, but whatever. To build the eye muscle to actually see it. So that's all the questions that I had for this podcast. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, again, feel free to reach out on Instagram or email me at beccababbles.podcast@gmail.com. But with all that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to babble with you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Becca Babbles Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, the best thing that you can do is leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other listening platform of your choosing. If you want to learn more about me, you can do that by following me on Instagram at Becca and Wellness, or by checking out my blog, freebies, offers, and newsletter on my website at beccaandwellness.com. If you want to share the love of the podcast, you can do that by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media and tagging me and the podcast at Becca and Wellness and using the hashtag Becca Babbles Podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to babble with you next time.